Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Matthew Dale for all things guitar and all things music. And today we're going to take a look at the best beginner guitar chords. The chords you should absolutely learn if you are a brand new guitar player. Now, most beginner guitar players have a focus of they want to learn some chords, they want to learn a couple songs, and they want to strum along, either themselves singing or with a singer, that sort of thing. That's usually our aim, our goal as a brand new guitar player. But in my experience, when I started learning guitar when I was about 6 or 7 years old, I actually got the guitar chords memorized pretty easily. G, D, E, A, C, E minor, A minor. I knew all those relatively quick in my guitar journey. I spent the time and I really tried to memorize those, commit those to memory. But the thing that I struggled with for years, through, 8, 9, 10, and probably not till I was 11 or 12, was switching between the chords. I couldn't go from G and then switch over to a C chord in a song, in an actual song, if I was playing along with a recording or playing with a group of people. Couldn't really do that very well. And if you have had similar experiences, you can let me know in the comment below. It wasn't until much later when I started teaching guitar that I thought about how can I get faster results for my students with basically the same sound, rather than the what I would call like the Mel Bay or the Hal Leonard chords where you have this kind of one finger, these one finger deals here. What can I show my students that is relatively easy, that they can learn, memorize the chord shapes pretty quick, and that they could also apply into a real life song scenario and play in tempo and change chords at a reasonable pace? So I'm going to show you two-finger chord shapes starting in the key of G. A lot of beginner guitar music is in the key of G. And it's all going to revolve around this idea of a guide finger. A guide finger being our third finger, our ring finger, on the third fret of the B string, this D note. This one's going to stay planted here the entire time. And then our other fingers for these three chords right now, our second and first finger, are going to rotate around this finger. So instead of your music book or your guitar chord library book of this four-finger G chord, which is fine, it sounds good. If you got that one mastered, by all means, you can have that. But if you are just starting out and you see this chord and you're trying to arrange your fingers and get in this chord and you're like, man, guitar is hard, I can't do this, and then go to the next chord, try these chords out instead. So instead of big four-finger G chord, try this two-finger variety of this G chord. I've got my second finger on the low E on the third fret, and then the guide finger, the one that's going to stay planted the entire time, third finger, B string, third fret. Now, I'm also muting out the A string and the high E string. Don't need those strings in this case. So I actually have, if I turn a little bit, a relatively flat finger. I'm not super arched. My wrist isn't super low. I've actually got a fairly relaxed grip on the guitar and muting out the A string and the high E, and I've got the low E, the D, the G, and the B strings all ringing nice and clear. That's the way that chord should sound. Hand is very relaxed. My thumb's up here. You could have it down there, although it's actually easier to mute those strings if the thumb's up there a little bit. So there's chord number one. This is sort of the parent of the rest of the chords that I'm going to show you. There's our G chord. Our C chord is super easy to get to. All I'm going to do is take my second finger, go down one string towards the floor, and put that second finger on the third fret of the A string, right below one string. I know if you're a guitar player, usually we say below, meaning up here, because these are the lower sounding strings, but I'm doing this for the beginner guitars out there. So going one string towards the floor. And there's a C. You can already play some music, a decent amount of music with that. So if you're reading a chord and lyric chart, or you're finding the chords to your favorite song and you see G and C, play these chords. Now, if you're also looking at that same song, there's a really good likelihood that a D chord is going to come up on that chord chart. So let's take a look at the D chord. I'm taking the second finger off, leaving the third finger on. Remember, that's the guide finger. And I'm going to plant my first finger on the second fret of the G string. This is an A note. Now this one, I'm strumming from the A string on down. Still have the high E string muted out. So G, second finger on the third fret of the E string. C, second finger on the third fret of the A string, not playing the low E. And then D, also not playing the low E. First finger moves to the second fret on the G. So with those three chords, a ton of music in there, relatively small changes. We're not doing big 4-finger G to 3-finger C to 3-finger D. All of these chords have to be lifted and moved into place. Maybe not G to this D chord if you're playing in that arrangement, because you can still leave that third finger, which is good because then that third finger is already trained up for transitioning from these bigger chords. But for our C chord, we have to actually lift and plant different fingers in different arrangements, which is why when I was a kid, that was really hard for me. I didn't have any sort of frame of reference to move my hand from one chord to the next. This method gives you immediate frame of reference, rotating these chords all around that third finger, G, C, and D. Ton of music and a ton of songs in there, especially if you get a capo involved. You've got a plethora of keys, a plethora of songs in there. So let's take a look at another chord we can add using this guide finger. We had G, C, D. If we take our first finger and go up towards the ceiling 2 strings, the second fret on the A string, we get an E minor 7 that works in place of any E minor that we might find on a chart. Sounds pretty nice too. So there's 4 chords that we have based off of this guide finger: G, C, D, and E minor. That's a ton of songs. G, D, E minor, C. Capo 2, you got Wagon Wheel in there. And so many more. You know, I don't even have to go and list them. Chances are, if you're looking up chords on the internet, you're finding those chords. So now you've got this library, this internal library of 4 chords. You can probably switch relatively fast. It'll take a little bit of time, a little bit of practice, but a little bit of practice never hurt anyone, especially when it comes to the guitar. So what happens next? We've got this internal library of 4 chords. Let's take a look at another system of guide finger chords. So we had G, D, E minor, C. Now, new guide finger, I'm going to put my first finger over here on the first fret of the B string. Still using the B string, so that can help you keep things consistent. B string, and then I'm going to plant my second finger on the second fret of the D string, and this is going to make an A minor 7 chord that we can use anywhere we see an A minor. So that would be our first real transition from chord to chord. After we already have these easy transitions, I'm going to target when I'm making that transition. When I teach my students to make this transition, I have them target that first finger note, first fret on the B string first before they make the rest of the chord. That way you're centered your thoughts around the guide finger, what's going to be, you know, staying there the entire time. Now, with our guide finger there, we have 3 other chords that we can explore. So the A minor is one of them. If I keep everything here the same and just add my third finger on the third fret of the A string, I get a C chord, a little more of a traditional C chord, just by putting my third finger in that location. And then if I move my second and third finger down 1 string each towards the floor, I get a chord called an F major 7. And this is great because if you look up F in your chord books or F in, on the onlines somewhere, usually you see the dreaded F bar chord shape. And no beginners like this chord. This is the hand burner. You got your muscles, aching, and you're trying to, press down all those chords, especially if you got a guitar with a high action, you're trying to squeeze down all those strings to get to the fretboard. There's an easier way. Rather than play F bar chord, try this F major 7. Maybe in some cases, in some songs, it won't work because of the major 7 sound. But in all cases of F coming up in a song in the key of C or in the key of G, it's pretty likely to work unless we were playing blues or something, and that F would be an F dominant 7. But that's another topic for another day. So, guide finger, first finger on the B string, A minor, C, and F major 7. Now, 2 systems of guide finger chords, 7 different chords we have at our disposal as beginner guitar players. This gives us a world of possibilities. This actually gives us, with a little bit less, we actually don't need the F major 7, but you can play through Take It Easy by the Eagles using these chord shapes, which is a song that I show, most of my beginner students because it uses all of these chords. And for the most part, it starts with all of these chords revolving around G. And then it'll go to an E minor, C, G, and here comes our transition from a new guide finger system, A minor, C, and then back to E minor, C, G, C, G, go back to that A minor, C, and then back to G. So Take It Easy by the Eagles, fantastic song to learn to get these chords under your fingers, as well as probably several others that you can find. So practice those chords, get those under your fingers, comment below if you found this helpful, and hit that subscribe button if you want some more content like this. Thanks, and I'll see you on the next one.